Norway just knocked Brazil out of the World Cup. Brazil, five-time world champions, the most decorated team in the sport, out in the round of 16 for the first time in 36 years. And it wasn't a lack of talent. One of the best attackers on earth was on that pitch. Something else had broken. Norway hadn't qualified for a World Cup since 1998. Brazil has never missed one. The only nation that can say that. Norway beat them 2-1 and sent them home. The blame went to the players, but that's too easy. What broke Brazil was structural, and it had been breaking for years. Erling Haaland needed 11 minutes to expose it. And when it was over, Neymar walked away from Brazil for good. This is how you break a five-time champion. Brazil have won the World Cup 5 times: 1958, 62, 70, 94, and 2002. No country has won more. That record is the standard every Brazil team is measured against. But the last title was 2002, 24 years ago. A Brazilian born the day of the 5th star is an adult now, with a job, who has never once seen Brazil win a World Cup. Since 2002, the trophy has gone to Italy, Spain, Germany, France, Argentina, and Spain again this summer. 6 World Cups, none of them Brazil. Still, for 36 years, Brazil had never finished below the quarterfinals. Even the worst result, the 7-1 loss to Germany in 2014, came in a semifinal. A round of 16 exit was new territory. And the talent hasn't dried up. Brazil's season produced Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, and Neymar, and still produces world-class players. This squad had Vinícius Júnior, one of the best attackers in the game. So, if the talent was there, what actually failed? Because Brazil didn't just lose to Norway. They dominated the match and still went out. A 5-time champion doesn't break from one bad night. Something inside this team had been coming apart long before kickoff. So, what actually failed? Start with everything around the team. For the first time ever, Brazil handed the national side to a foreign coach, Carlo Ancelotti, the most decorated manager in club football, hired mid-cycle to steady a program that had burned through coaches since 2022. He walked into his first major tournament with Brazil, still rebuilding itself around him. Then the squad itself started thinning. The midfield had aged. Casemiro, at 34, was asked to cover far more ground than one player can. Then came the injuries. Rafinha tore his hamstring after the second match. Rodrigo and Steven were already out before the tournament began. But none of that is enough to sink a 5-time champion. Teams survive a new manager. They survive injuries. Brazil had survived both before and still reached the last 8. This time something more basic was wrong, and it only showed when Brazil had the ball. At first, it worked. Brazil topped their group, a draw with Morocco, 3-0 against Haiti, 3-0 against Scotland, then beat Japan 2-1 in the round of 32. On the surface, nothing looked wrong. And here it is, the flaw the results were hiding. In 2002, Brazil's front line was Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho. In 2026, it was Vinícius and no recognized center forward at all. Across 5 games, they missed 13 clear chances, the worst conversion of any contender. Brazil still produces brilliant attackers. It has stopped producing the one specialist whose only job is to score. If you want more football history explained at the whiteboard, subscribe. The next video is about the 4 legends who played their final World Cup this summer, and the 4 very different endings they got. And in the round of 16, Brazil ran into the exact player they lacked. Norway had one of the best strikers in the world, Erling Haaland. And then 11 minutes. July 5th, round of 16. Brazil against Norway, a team back at the World Cup for the first time since 1998. And Brazil dominated. They created 2.6 expected goals and took 33 touches in Norway's box. From open play, they scored none. The finishing problem decided the match. Norway had the one thing Brazil didn't, a striker who converts. In the 78th minute, Haaland rose above two defenders and headed Norway in front, 1-0. 11 minutes later, in the 89th, he struck again. A shot from well outside the box into the bottom corner, 2-0. Two goals in 11 minutes, from the exact kind of player Brazil no longer has. In stoppage time, Brazil won a penalty. Neymar, 34, and limited by injury all tournament, scored. Of course he did. 2-1. Minutes later, the match ended. Brazil's earliest World Cup exit since 1990. The result came down to one thing. Norway had a world-class striker. Brazil, the country that has produced more of them than anyone, did not. One of them didn't come back. Neymar's entire World Cup lasted 37 minutes, a single penalty in a game already lost. This is Brazil's all-time leading scorer, more goals than Pelé. The player expected to deliver a sixth title, but his World Cups were defined by misfortune. Injured out of 2014, eliminated in 2018, knocked out on penalties in 2022. He never lost a final. He was never able to reach one. The day after the defeat, Neymar announced he will never play for Brazil again. No farewell match. His international career ended on a consolation penalty in a 2-1 loss. Ancelotti called the result the beginning, not the end, for Brazil. He may be right. The talent is still common. Brazil's next generation is already breaking through. And the weight of that sixth title now falls to Vinícius, the one player who lived up to it this tournament, and who watched Neymar carry it for over a decade. This is a lesson of Brazil's collapse. 5 titles tell you who a team used to be. They don't win a single important match in the present. The next World Cup is in 2030. Brazil will bring a new generation and the same open question. Can they produce a striker again? So, what's left? That was Rod's pitch. The game explained one drawing at a time. The question worth arguing. Was this Brazil's own failure or just one missing striker? Leave your side below and tell me which falling giant to break down next. I will see you at the 4 goodbyes.